I'm back with Walter Mosley. We're talking about his new book, Little Green, and we solicited a few questions from social media. This one comes from Facebook. Jocelyn Josie Harris asks, why do you put a color in the title of all the Easy Rollins book novels?
Of all the things I do, this is the most uninteresting thing. But I put the colors in because
Not to this person.
I wrote a book called, that I called Devil in a Blue Dress. And then I wrote another book called A Red Death. I had reasons for both of those titles, but I wasn't thinking color. When I started to write the third book, my editor said, well, what's the color of this one? And I went, color? And he went, yeah, color. You're writing colors. And so I said, okay. And so I wrote White Butterfly, and I've been writing colors in the Easy Rollins novels ever since. No more meaning than that.
Also from Facebook, this is Michael Brewer asks, I'd like to know about his future works now that he's revived Easy Rollins. Will we be seeing any of his other characters like Socrates Fortlow or Fearless Jones?
You'll see both Socrates Fortlow and Fearless Jones, but I'm not sure when. Socrates takes there's about a 5-year period in between books.
Because?
Socrates is the creation of a black philosopher, and so it takes a little while for the previous book to gestate. I've done 3 of them, and so the 4th one, and then will come in a couple of years, I think. I'm trying to do a television show with Lawrence Fishburne based on Socrates, and I think if I start doing that,
really?
it'll be sooner. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see if that happens. We don't. One doesn't know. And I'd love to write about Fearless. I just don't know when I have the time yet.
How long does it take to write one of these? Like Little Green.
4 months.
4 months.
4 months. Yeah. I work hard when I'm doing it. I write every day, and when I do a mystery, I write an outline. So if you write an outline, you can do it faster.
So you know where it's going from the beginning.
Generally, yeah. I write a collapsible outline.
Collapsible meaning
that you may not follow it exactly. When I wrote
well, you're
Blonde
the
Faith,
author, so
when I wrote Blonde Faith,
yourself, right?
I didn't write that he's going to drive off the side of a mountain, but he did.
Deborah on Twitter asks, any movie talks on Easy?
No movie talks on Easy, but Sam Jackson is doing The Last Days of Ptolemy Grave for HBO, and I just got a script in for The Man in My Basement that we'd like to do with Anthony Mackie.
Really?
Yeah.
I know both of those books.
Yeah.
Those would both be very interesting, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Easy is a little bit further up, It's not quite an action book, but people have that expectation because it's in that genre.
And finally, I just want to ask what we like to ask anybody that comes. 5, if you can, recent books that you've read that you would recommend to our audience.
Well, most of the books that I've read have been books that I've reread. 100 Years of Solitude, of course. A kind of a smattering of the simple stories of Langston Hughes. I read one of Michael Moorcock's science fiction series. It's called the Hawk Moon series. And so I read those books again. I read the biography of Albert Einstein and Hot House by Brian Aldiss. I reread that.
Okay, so you're a rereader.
I think that every writer knows that writing is rewriting. Because you can't just write a book and then it'll be finished. Right. And reading is the same thing. Any book that was written seriously, you can read 4 or 5 times, and every time you read it, you get more out of it. And I think it's really, really important because reading isn't about quantity; it's about the quality of thought.
How often? How much time do you leave between rereadings?
It's a hard thing to say. Yeah, it's just when you feel ready for it.
Of course, you got to leave time for some new books too.
Yeah, I know, and I try to read new books. I have Edwige Danticott's new collection of short stories. I'm about to read that. I'm very excited about that. I'm a very slow reader, though.
Oh, really? You're a fast writer, but a slow reader.
Yeah, it's true. It's like when I'm reading it, it takes a long time for me to read books. So I probably only read about 4 or 5 new books a year. Yeah.
Okay, Walter Mosley, thanks so much.
Thank you. I came half awake, dead and dreaming. My eyes were open, but I couldn't focus on anything because I was still falling, as if the nightmare had followed me from sleep into the waking world. I didn't know where I was or where I'd come from, but the bed under me was turning and falling, and I was sure, had perished. This sensation was so real, so palpable, that I closed my eyes and moaned. The movement of the bed then took on a temporal quality. Instead of falling, I had become unmoored in time, traveling backward and then forward through a life that was mine and yet, at the same time, foreign to me. I watched my mother dying in the bedroom of our shanty house in New Iberia, Louisiana. She was laid up in a feather bed, a big woman who was trying to catch her breath but couldn't inhale right. It sounded like she was drowning. She was so pretty, I thought. I had once loved her but could no longer raise this feeling in my heart. I might have even smiled as she shuddered under the labor of simple breathing. Then I tumbled into a boxcar peopled by brooding and silent black men. They stared at the boy, and he saw, from their point of view, a scared 8-year-old orphan child looking for companionship in those angry, bloodshot eyes. I was no longer that kid, but had become those men who couldn't care about another defenseless child orphaned and destined, probably to die. I saw myself and wondered, almost idly, if that young son would live to the end of the line.